Hello and welcome to the Tillage Edge with me, Michael Hennessy. This is your regular update for all your tillage news and advice. The media is always trying to find, or at least tell us about the next superfood, a food which is super nutritious, helps you live longer, and we'll be told it's a wonder everyone didn't know about it already. While porridge isn't the trendiest product, or not at least until now, but oats definitely ticks two of the criteria for being very nutritious and helping people live longer. The fact that oats are gluten-free is also a big bonus. Glanbia have developed new markets for oats over the past 10 or 12 years and appear to be going from strength to strength. I'm delighted to be joined by Mariea O'Toole, Grain Quality Operations Manager from Glanbia, who will chat to us about how the business is going and how oats market are growing in the various different regions across Europe and further afield. I first asked Mariea to tell us a little bit about the background of the Glanbia oat business.
Well, we started this business just 11, 12 years ago at this stage now. We've developed obviously and learned a lot over that steep learning curve. We have markets now in Europe, Ireland and the UK, and there's also interest there with Germany, Spain and Italy. Obviously, what we have to offer now has changed over time with the demand from consumers and customers. So we've actually moved from just our raw oat material to hydrolysed flour and non-hydrolysed flour. So things have evolved and probably evolved even faster in the latter years, but all the time moving with the times and meeting customer demands.
And Mariea, your original market, or one of the first ones, I suppose, that you got notoriety for was the US market. Is that still on the go?
That's correct. That's our food grade market. So we still have that business, and it's obviously a very strong business for us, and it would have been the bones of us opening up our own oat mill. But that contract is still there, and we're very proud to say that we have that contract. Again, it has evolved with varying varieties. The customers are the suppliers, actually growers have actually stayed the same. Remarkably, we have a group of growers there who have been with us from the beginning, and at this stage are very established at growing the food grade oats for us.
Okay, and with the markets, you're saying you have various different new markets, and for the existing market that we talked about a second ago, is there any growth in kind of the existing ones? And we'll talk about the new ones in a second.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all the time. We actually doubled our acreage in the gluten-free oats planting for 2020 from 2019. So that was obviously because of growth and demand that was out there for the product. Customers seem to be looking more for a pure product. So they're looking for the oat, which is naturally gluten-free, and therefore they're looking for the gluten-free because the ordinary oat that they could get in the market could be contaminated. So the market is definitely there for what we're growing, and because we've got such a tight supply chain and we can guarantee gluten-free status at every point along it, our customers are very interested, and obviously demand is increasing.
Okay, you mentioned hydrolyzed and non-hydrolyzed flour. Would you tell us exactly what that is and who's using that and what are they using for?
Yes, this is just something we've moved into recently. So it's a developing market really. The hydrolyzed flour basically is a ready-to-drink product that can be used in beverages, in yogurts, ice cream, even in the bakery application, and also in drinks. The non-hydrolyzed flour then is for use in ready to mix. So it could be in beverages again, plant-based yogurts and other dairy alternatives. So it's looking at the plant-based diet and looking for your alternatives from your dairy produce. So again, customers are driving this. They're looking for the free from with their products. So yeah, we're delighted to be able to move into this market. And when the demand was there, why not? We've adapted in the oat mill to be able to take this on, and happy to do so if the demand is there, and it also gives opportunity back to growers then to increase their contract, and the premium is important to them. So
okay, and when you say, you mentioned plant-based yogurts, which I just think is a bit of an odd term in itself, is that kind of aimed at the vegan side of the market, or is it somewhere different?
It would be primarily, yes. I suppose us being primarily a dairy business, we're moving this way, or sidelining, I suppose, this way. But that's because the demand is there for us. So the oat business just feeds into that nicely. We obviously have to look at the plant-based because this is the future for a lot of people. And if we didn't move with the times, we'd be left behind. And we need to be seen to be offering what the consumer wants, along with the dairy business, which is not going to go away. But certainly a plant-based diet, vegans, whatever angle you want to look at, they're there, and they're looking for products. So with oats, it's an ideal opportunity to move into that market.
Okay, and you mentioned gluten-free. All of your products going through in the oats are gluten-free. Is that a very strong part of the USP, I suppose, of oats that you're selling?
It would be, I suppose. Obviously, we've done a lot over the years to get to this stage. As I said, we have a very tight, closed loop supply chain. So we're ensuring that we have gluten-free oats at the end of the process. The gluten-free market and the gluten-free part of our business, we've managed to increase our grower pool. We've managed to secure a premium for those growers over a base wheat price, and it has attracted a grower pool that we wouldn't primarily have moved into, and also our area has allowed us then to move into counties and geographical spread that, again, we wouldn't have moved into without the gluten-free opportunity.
Just in terms of the measures that Glanbia put in place to ensure that the oats are gluten-free, what sort of measures are there, kind of from a business, from your own processing point of view, the business perspective, and then also then maybe what's required or demanded, if you like, from the farmer side of the house?
For ourselves, it's, as I said, I've said it before, the supply chain is what we focused on. So we're looking at each step along that chain, that from the very start, from seed right through to the processed product, that we're managing that supply chain, and we're ensuring no risk of any contamination at any point along that chain. We do several testing, obviously, along the way to ensure this is happening. So we populate our own seed, which is tested before it's sold to the grower. And then we're testing the dried grain in storage before it's dispatched to the mill. And then we're finally testing the processed product before it's dispatched. For the grower, he's obviously using gluten-free seed. His field is inspected before we sow, and that's just to see if we have any obvious risk before we go into that field. So we're ensuring that we have a clean field. We inspect his drills so that he has a clean drill. And then during the growing season, we are in the field inspecting the crop to ensure that it's ready for harvest.
And you, in terms of the delivery and your processing on site, is that happening at a specific location, or is that at all Glanbia sites, or how's that worked?
No, we assemble at Harris Grain in Athy. So that's our drying location. So it's an oats only site. So he has only got our food grade oats and our gluten-free oats on site. So Glanbia harvest the crop and transport the crop direct to the site. There's no tipping of the grain between farm and site, and it's delivered direct into the hopper, into a store before, and in storage then for our oat mill in Portlaoise. Okay,
very, very close loop. So in terms of the winter and spring oats that are out there, is there any specific varieties that must be planted by the grower? Are they contracted, or are a grower free to grow whichever varieties they like?
Well, growers are contracted, so all of our growers are contracted growers that deliver into the gluten-free and the food grade. We have winter and spring growers. They're up to possibly 2 years ago, we would have had Barra as our only variety. But Barra would have come from our US market because that was their variety of choice. And then just to make it easier in the mill, we left it at Barra for the gluten-free. We had always been looking at other varieties, but when they were processed, they didn't always meet the mark for various reasons: taste, color, texture. So we came on Isabel then as a new variety. So we've had that for the last number of years. And this year we have Barra and Isabel being grown by growers, which is it's a big step, and growers are very happy, obviously, because Barra is an old variety. It has been slipping in yield. However, we would always say that the quality is excellent. So that's obviously very important. Also new for this year is Husky. So we have some basic Husky planted for our gluten-free. So we're going to look at a Husky as a possible variety for planting in the autumn time, which would obviously give growers an additional option, possibly at the detriment of Barra, where we'd be left with Isabel and Husky. But at this stage, we are offering more than one variety, which is obviously very welcomed by growers.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, growers certainly always like a little bit of variety for sure. Just in terms of the growing season then, as the growers put it in and are trying to, I suppose, get it all the way to harvest, is there a different regime of agronomy in comparison to a normal feed oat, or is it relatively the same?
No, it's relatively the same. The focus is still the same. Keep the crop standing, obviously, is very important, but agronomy program doesn't change. Obviously, all products must be passed for use on the oats, but agronomy program is similar, yeah.
Okay, and just in terms of the markets you have, which are, like you say, they're from the US all the way across Europe, is there any differential or demands from your customers with regards to what sort of plant protection products can be used?
Well, obviously, the focus is always there on what products are being used, and we get various inquiries as to different products. But thankfully, glyphosate obviously is something that we have banned for use as a desiccant pre-harvest on all food crops. So that was welcomed obviously by our customers. Other than that, there have been inquiries about different products. Growth regulation is probably the next thing under the radar, but we haven't met with any products so far that they have had an issue with that because we do obviously a lot of testing on our product in store when it's dried in storage. So nothing has shown up, and that's obviously what the customer wants to see. So there is rumblings in the background, but nothing has come as a direct line of being banned or not wanted. So that's where it stands at the moment anyway.
Well, that's good. It's always a tricky area, and consumer
Absolutely
demands more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's an area I suppose all parts of the industry are looking at. And just going back to the field, Mariea, how are crops looking out there at the moment?
Yeah, crops are actually looking very good. We've obviously just started our final inspections in our winter crops, so the head has popped out, and it looks there's decent heads on the crop. Now I will say they have suffered a long cold spell, which obviously we won't know the effects of until harvest time. There are some reports of blind grains in heads, but the crops themselves look well. The spring crops then obviously, as soon as they got the mild weather, they jumped out of the ground, and they're looking very well, and they've got huge potential at the moment, and probably won't be that big a difference in harvesting time between winter and spring as it turned out. But all in all, the crops look well.
Okay. And you mentioned inspections there a second ago. You're completing some of your final inspections in field.
Yep.
How are those carried out? You might describe what the process is involved.
Well, during the growing season, we carry out 3 specific crop inspections, and that's just to line ourselves up that if there was any risks that we'd preempt the problem in a field, or we could do something about it before it becomes a problem. So I myself carry out 2 of those inspections during the growing season. And then, as I said, we have our final inspection now, just as the panicle is emerging. So we have a team of people in the field, and these people walk through the fields no more than 3 or 4 meters apart, inspecting the crop for any contamination of wheat, barley, brome, or wild oats.
Okay. So I presume there's some degree of responsibility on the farmer to have some of that done already, or?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd communicate with the growers as we're coming up to the final inspection. At this stage, we have the same pool of growers apart from a number, and at this stage they know the routine. They would go into the crop. We have to wait for a certain stage to allow obviously visibility if there was any wheat or barley just to be seen over the crop. But obviously the onus is completely on the grower to look after his own crop. So he must walk the crop, inspect the crop, and ensure that it is free from any contamination.
Okay. And just in terms of the quality specs for the grain produced off the farm at the at harvest time, what is involved in that?
Well, similar to any grain intake, we're obviously looking at kpH, moisture, and screenings of the oats. Visually, then we would obviously look for any contamination of wheat, barley, brome, wild oats, stones, glass, any other admixture that may be possibly in the sample of grain from the trailer. Apart from those visual checks, then we would also do a gluten check, which is taking place on our Q sorter machine. This machine takes a sample and can identify anything other than an oat. So it will throw out any wheat or barley or maybe dark grains of oats, anything that doesn't look like what it thinks an oat is. So obviously a very handy machine, but it's clarifying that we're saying the crop is gluten-free standard, and this machine is just telling us that or verifying it for us.
Sorry, Marie, that's checking a sample of the crop or checking the entire crop is going across it?
No, it's just checking the sample that you've taken from the trailer. It's all based on stats. So we have we take a large sample and cone and quarter down and take a random sample then from that and check it for any contamination.
Okay, very good. It's all getting very high tech, certainly.
Certainly, yep.
So just the final question I just want to ask you is kind of around organic oats. Are Glanbia growing, or are they buying any organic oats at the moment, or is that an area that you see as increasing or in more demand?
Yeah, actually we started last year, so we assembled about 500 ton approximately last year, and the site is, in Graiguecullen is where that's being stored. We're going to actually assemble similar quantities for this harvest. So the interest is there. Again, it's a growing market. We're just really tipping our toes in the water with it. But certainly it's an area to be watched, and even a step further with gluten-free organic. All the time it's the grower or the customer that's looking for that bit extra. So yeah, it's exciting. And obviously we have gluten-free or organic standard now in our site in Graiguecullen, and the oat mill is also. So yeah, it's an important step, and it's another string to our bow, and growers are delighted to have somebody else in the competition, and we're offering contracts for that tonnage, which is great, and another opportunity.
Okay, and just the very final question in terms of new contracts, are Glanbia looking for any new growers out there?
Well, always with the oats, because we enforce 1 in 4 year crop rotation, there will be growers who will only be able to grow a crop for a number of years without having to fall out for a while before they can come back into the rotation. So yes, all the time we would be looking for clean ground in the location that we're working in.
And what do you call clean ground?
I would say that with no history of wild oat contamination, brome, obviously, because brome now is such a big issue on farms. So there's just no point going into those fields knowing you have an issue with a crop of oats. Okay,
thank you very much for your time. It's great to chat about a new and growing business, because in Tillage we often talk about it the other way. We're kind of being forced out, so sometimes in lots of different markets. But it's great that it's developing really well for Glanbia, and I hope it continues to do so. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
So that's it for the Tillage Edge, and my thanks to Mariea for joining me. There are a number of excellent webinars and events coming up in the next couple of weeks that you can pencil into your calendar. Teagasc are running a series of webinars on grass weeds as part of the ECT project on June the 8th from Wexford, with a focus on wild oats and canary grass, June the 22nd from the Northeast with a focus on blackgrass and brome, and July the 6th from Cork with a focus on sterile brome, blackgrass and ryegrass. All of the events will start at 11:30 a.m. As I mentioned over the last few weeks, the Oak Park Open Day will take place on June the 30th and July the 1st. You can only attend by booking first, and details of how to do this are currently on the Teagasc website. And for all the events we have ongoing, check out teagasc.ie/events. So finally, don't forget, if you like this podcast, then recommend it to a friend or colleague. And as always, review and subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify so you never miss an episode. And for more information, go to teagasc.ie. I'm Michael Hennessy. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week with more tillage news and advice.